My professor wife called me boring. Then a 11:47 p.m. door alert exposed her affair. My wife and I are very different. She teaches physics at a college and I manage the college's maintenance department, fixing windows and doors, replacing furniture, and doing all the renovations. After 5 years of marriage, she started making fun of me, saying I wasn't very smart, that there was nothing interesting to talk about with me, and stopped inviting me to meetings with colleagues. She became shy around me. I noticed her coldness towards me, mostly in bed, while before she was very passionate. I'm Cole, 35. My wife is Nova, 33, an assistant professor who can turn chalk dust into poetry. On paper we're campus cute, her in a blazer, me with a tool belt, same parking hang tag. First signs of trouble were small and, honestly, kind of polite. She started calling my projects handy stuff, and laughing when I didn't get a joke about quarks. Our routines thinned out, morning coffee turned into I already grabbed one, and Friday date nights became department mixers, where spouses were better off skipping the jargon. She said it with a smile that didn't reach me. Here's the early twist. The first undeniable red flag didn't come from lipstick or a rumor. It came from a door. We'd upgraded the physics annex with smart strikes that send me a ping when someone props them. At 11:47 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, my phone buzzed, Annex East, propped. I was on call. If a lab gets aired out after hours, alarms hate it and grants hate it more. I drove over. The halls had that after-hours hush, just vending machines and my footsteps. At Nova's suite, the entry rug was crooked and there was a faint scent of citrus cleaner and something warm, skin and shampoo. On a chair, Nova's scarf, the one I bought her in Santa Fe, twisted like a ribbon. On the desk, 2 mugs still steaming, one ringed with a shade of lipstick she never wears. I told myself a grad student could have borrowed it. I also told myself not to invent stories. Her office door was closed but not latched. A rolling whiteboard blocked part of the window, like someone was practicing theater curtains. I knocked, polite. Silence. I texted, "You here?" 3 dots, then, "Grant review. Go home. I'm busy." It read like she was shooing a delivery guy. When I turned, a soft sound floated through, the quick catch of a breath and a laugh pressed into a whisper. Not explicit but private in a way that made my neck heat. I froze, hand on a door I've adjusted for perfect close. I stepped back. I am not a hero in a movie, I am a maintenance lead with keys to a lot of sadness if I use them wrong. I did the boring right thing. I logged the prop, shut the strike, photographed the board blocking the window for my report, and left. Outside, rain made the asphalt shine like it belonged to someone braver. My phone buzzed again, this time from Nova. "Don't wait up. Big day tomorrow." She added a heart. It felt like a sticker over a crack. On the drive home, I tried to forgive the hallway sounds into innocence. I reminded myself she is brilliant, social, tireless. I am steady, quiet, good with hinges. Still, a thought kept knocking. Doors don't invent pings. They tell you when someone props them open. The next morning I told myself I'd dreamed the laugh. Nova was bright and breezy, hair up, scarf back around her neck like a secret made of wool. "Long night," she said, kissing my cheek in a way that felt edited. She smelled like citrus cleaner and a warm note that wasn't our laundry soap. At work I pulled the annex access log because that's my job, not because I enjoy pain. Her card swipe, 6:14 p.m. Another at 11:32. A visitor code at 11:39. One we issue to approved guests for after-hours collaboration. Issued 3 weeks ago to Rains, the visiting postdoc who runs at lunch and calls coffee fuel. My stomach sank like a faulty elevator. Plot twist. I wasn't snooping for romance. I needed to fix the window film someone had requested for Nova's lab. Privacy film, rush, glare issue. I rolled my card in after lunch, knocked, and no one answered. The room was empty except for a second mug and a freshly wheeled whiteboard angled to cover the single interior window. On her desk, an old iPad I'd rescued during a renovation blinked awake when I bumped it. Still signed into her iCloud. The home screen was a photo from our Santa Fe trip, sun on Red Rock, but the hidden album badge had a tiny count I'd never noticed. I shouldn't have tapped it. I did. Nothing explicit. Just intimacy arranged like evidence. Nova in a lab coat, collar open, a hand, not mine, fitting on the line where her neck meets her shoulder. 2 coffee cups on a desk with her wedding band resting beside a dry erase marker, like jewelry needed a break. A boomerang of a door closing, her smiling up at whoever held the phone. A live photo captured breath and fabric, the low sound people make when they're very close and forgetting clocks. The frame caught a sliver of that runner's jacket, charcoal, reflective stripe-eyed sign for at receiving. The captions were little jokes in physics font, entanglement office hours. Field work. The Notes app had a list titled Rules. No photos with faces. Ring off in lab. Park 2 blocks away. Stay polite. I stood there with my palm on a stool like I'd get dizzy and it might catch me. The stay polite line landed like a dare. I backed out, fixed the film, and told myself maybe I'd misread. Maybe it was performative, someone's idea of clever. Then an unknown number texted me, check live photos. Hold down. My heart did that elevator drop again. When I pressed and held, the stills breathed. The lab coat shifted. A hand skimmed the back of her neck. Not graphic, but close enough to feel heat through glass. That night I tried the soft path. How's Aiden? I asked like I was naming a cloud and not a man. Nova's eyes did a micro flinch and then she smiled. Brilliant, she said. We're sprinting before his fellowship ends. She touched my cheek. Don't be insecure, Cole. It's not your world. Her tone was patient, like she was explaining basic math to someone who fixes doors for a living. I told myself to breathe, to not become the story. Then a UPS driver handed me a misdelivered package with our address and her maiden name. Inside, a men's running jacket, size M, gift note, 4 late walks back. Tracking history showed it ping-ponging from Aiden's apartment to ours. When Nova got home, I held it out. She didn't miss a beat. Raffle prize for the grad student seminar, she said, bright as noon. You wouldn't know about that. I nodded because I am polite even when a part of me was already lining up receipts like screws in a tray. That night, in bed, she turned away, murmured, so tired, and I stared at the ceiling fan, counting blades, remembering the way her ring gleamed beside a marker in a photo I wish I could unsee. I picked Saturday afternoon because sunlight makes people honest. Nova was reorganizing the bookcase, humming like the house was a set. I put the misdelivered jacket on the coffee table beside my facility's clipboard and said as evenly as I could, we need to talk about the annex at 1147 and the visitor code for Aiden Rains. She didn't blink. Cole, you're reading door logs like horoscopes. Then she smiled with that classroom shine. He's a researcher. I'm his mentor. Late nights happen. I know, I said gently. I was there. The whiteboard was blocking your window. I opened my phone, scrolled to a photo of that angled board and the prop alert. And this showed up at our house with a note. She plucked the jacket up, held it like it might transform. Raffle, she repeated, then pivoted like a dancer. Also, you've been distant. We never go out anymore. You're always fixing something. Which is true. I fix things. It's a virtue on a campus that forgets hinges exist. I need intellectual oxygen. Then why does your oxygen require your ring in a dish? The word surprised me by being steady. I laid my phone down, screen off, camera up. Not a trap, just a record. Nova, I found your old iPad in the lab. It was still signed in. She went still in that way cats do before they decide which direction to launch. You violated my privacy. Chin up, color high. You don't get to police my work. I softened my voice. I'm not a cop. I'm your husband. A breath. I saw the hidden album. Nothing explicit, but intimate. I let the next sentence sit on soft feet. And I saw the list in notes. Ring off. Park 2 blocks away. Stay polite. Her composure cracked like glaze. Then, whiplash, she slid down onto the rug and took my hands, eyes bright with tears that landed hot on my knuckles. Cole, please. It's not what you think. She squeezed, shook her head. It's just an intellectual crush. He quotes papers. He gets my brain sparking. I took the ring off because chalk dries out my fingers. A beat later, okay, once we had wine. I was sad about tenure. It got blurry. Then, catching herself, she met my eyes and went brazen. But even if I wanted an open marriage, lots of academics do it. It's healthy. Retroactive permission isn't consent, I said as politely as I could. If you wanted open, you would have asked me before the whiteboard moved. Her mouth flattened. You fix doors, I solve problems. That line cut in a place I didn't know was exposed. I stood, set the jacket back on the table and spoke like I was setting a level. Here's what I need if we even try. Timeline in writing, no contact with Aiden, full transparency, joint therapy, and you tell both families the truth. Not a story. The truth. She stared, calculating, then tried one more pivot. You're not perfect either, she murmured, coming close, hands at my waist, voice low. A kiss to the corner of my mouth, vanilla and apology. For a heartbeat, history tugged. Then I pictured a dry erase marker next to a wedding band on a textbook called Entanglement, and the tug turned into a wake-up. "No," I said softly, stepping back. "Not like this." She drew herself up, fury bright again. "You're being dramatic. This is normal for people like us." "Maybe for people like you," I said. "For me, normal is doors that close and locks that mean something." She exhaled hard, then gathered herself. "Fine. I'll write a timeline. I'll text him that it's over." She snatched her phone, typed fast, and showed me the screen like a hall pass. "We're done. Do not contact me." 3 dots. A reply pinged. "Understood. Thanks for protecting the grant." Not, "Thanks for the love. Thanks for the grant." My stomach sank, relief and insult wrapped together. Nova saw my face and went for the last mask. Small, contrite. "Knees again. Cole, please. Don't scorch us. I can fix this." "I hope so," I said, though I wasn't sure who I meant, "but I won't be the one turned to ash." I didn't sleep much. When the house got quiet enough to hear the fridge breathe, I opened a fresh notes file titled "Facts, Not Fireworks." Time stamps. Door pings. Photos of the angled whiteboard, the scarf, the 2 mugs. I added the text where Aiden thanked her for protecting the grant. No adjectives, just dates and links. It felt like laying tools out on a towel before taking a door apart. Clean revenge, not loud revenge, started with process. Our college has a boundary policy about after-hours access and mentor/mentee lines. I wrote a neutral report to the ethics office. Observed repeated visitor code use, window obstruction, ring removal during work, potential conflict of interest. No names calling, no emotions, no screenshots unless requested. I hit send and sat very still like the room might tip. Then I called my parents. My mom, June, listened without interrupting, then said, "Eat something. We'll be there in 20. My dad, Frank, is a retired carpenter who believes in levels and witnesses. He arrived with storage bins and a quiet "okay" hug. "Measure twice," he said, "cut once." We labeled 2 piles, hers and his, not as punishment, just as a way to breathe. Nova's family landed like weather. Her mother, Lark, FaceTimed from a wine bar at 2 in the afternoon. "Cole, academics are passionate," she announced, earrings chiming. "Don't be provincial." Her stepdad, Vaughn, yelled something about men policing women's brilliance, and clinked a glass off-screen. Her brother, Jet, texted a winking emoji and "open marriages are the future lol." The only one who sounded grounded was Nova's cousin, Sable, who DM'd me, "I'm sorry. Check Aiden's IG stories from the cabin. Background lamp matches his rental." She attached a screen record with a tiny glint of Nova's scarf in the corner. I asked Nova gently about the cabin. She said it was a department retreat. I asked for the invite list. She said it was informal. I asked who slept where. She said I was being controlling. Then she pivoted into tears so fast it gave me windburn. On her knees again, palms up. "Cole, please. I'm drowning. Tenure is a machine." He made me feel seen. I handed her a tissue and a simple pen. "Then let's write it down," I said. "Start to finish. No poetry. Just addresses and dates." Her timeline was 3 bullet points and 2 convenient amnesias. The months shaved off were the same months the annex logs showed her swipes at 11:30 p.m. I didn't correct her. I just added a column to my spreadsheet titled Nova's Version, and left the rest blank. Ethics wrote back faster than I expected. They'd pulled access records and wanted a meeting Monday. HR asked me not to engage with either party at work until they'd reviewed. My boss forwarded the email with a line that was pure relief. "We'll cover your tasks. Take care of yourself." I set passwords, split the joint card, and moved my essentials to the guest room. Not a slam, just a soft close. Nova stood in the doorway, furious and small in the same breath. "You're ruining my career," she said. I answered as politely as I could. "I'm protecting my life." That night I stared at the ceiling and did the meanest, kindest inventory I've ever done. How I'd been steady may be boring, how she'd confused steadiness with smallness, how it insulted me that goodness was treated like a prop. I wanted to forgive. I also wanted doors that meant what they said when they shut. Monday came with a suit I hadn't worn since our wedding. Ethics and HR sat me in a glass room and spoke in careful sentences. They'd pulled access logs. Nova's card plus a recurring visitor code used after 10 p.m., always days she marked lab sprint. Camera coverage showed a whiteboard moved to block the interior window. "We're not here to accuse," the director said, "just to separate rumor from risk." I kept my voice even, offered my notes, and said the line my dad taught me, I want to do this by the book. On my way out I got a text from Sable. A pin drop and, if you need confirmation. It was the lake cabin Aiden sometimes tagged without naming. She added a photo of a brass lamp reflected in a window. Same one from his stories, same one that glowed in the corner of a boomerang from Nova's hidden album. My stomach sank, then steadied. Facts are facts even when they hurt. I drove there at dusk and parked on the public road. No drama, no trespassing, just a long lens and a steady hand. At 7:18 p.m., Aiden jogged up the gravel with takeout bags. At 7:26, Nova's car rolled in. She paused to look in the rearview, took off her ring and tucked it in the console. It wasn't explicit, it was decisive. The porch light clicked on. Through the open blinds I saw 2 mugs set out, her scarf slung over a chair like a flag, and that brass lamp glowing like a signature. I filmed 10 seconds, time, date, and the ring back in a shallow dish beside a paperback titled, The Art of Clear Thinking. Irony had a sense of humor. Nova texted me at 9:03, late meeting. Don't wait up. I answered with a simple, okay. Be safe. My hands shook only after I put the phone down. The next morning I made eggs for my parents, because they'd stayed over like quiet security guards. Mom squeezed my shoulder. Dad said, "You've got your proof, son. Now protect your peace." We boxed a few more of my things. Shirts, a photo from Santa Fe, the tool roll my grandfather passed down. It felt like moving out without leaving. At noon, Nova walked in like a storm breaking. Hair wind-tossed, eyes bright, voice already sharp. "You filed with ethics?" she demanded. "Do you understand what grant seasons are like?" Then mid-sentence she switched masks and sank to her knees again, palms up. "Cole, please. You're blowing up my life." Tears slid clean paths through her makeup. It was mentorship that got messy. She caught herself, chose a different path. "Fine. Twice. But that was before your promotion." I felt small. I stayed polite. "You told me it was just oxygen." Then once. Now twice. "You asked me to call chaos normal." I won't. I slid a printout across the table, the cabin porch light, the ring in the dish, the brass lamp. No adjectives. Just time, place, and your choices. She stared, breath shaking, then went brazen again. "Everybody bends rules," she snapped. "You just don't understand my world." She stood, pointed at my bins. "What is this, punishment?" I shook my head. "Boundaries." Her mother, Lark, called on speaker right then, voice fizzy with afternoon wine. "Tell Cole to stop this crusade," she said. "You're embarrassing the department." My mom took the phone and very gently said, "Ma'am, we're just telling the truth." Lark hung up with a theatrical sigh. 2 minutes later, Sable texted me, "Lark's going to spin. Hold your line." Nova tried one last script. "I'll fix it," she said, fury dim to pleading. "I'll email ethics myself, say it was a misunderstanding. I'll call it a boundary workshop. Just don't become the story." The phrase from her notes hit like a bell. "I won't," I said. "The story's already here. I'm just labeling the parts." That afternoon a sedan idled at the curb like a held breath. Out stepped Dr. Mercer, Nova's department chair, with a manila envelope and a careful smile that never reached his eyes. "Cole, 5 minutes?" he asked, voice low. We sat on the porch where we eat summer peaches. He slid the envelope between us. "A confidential understanding," he said. "No fault, no spectacle. A stipend for discretion, a workshop on boundaries, a memo that reframes optics." He tapped the flap. "Everyone stays whole." It should have tempted me. Quiet sounded like mercy. Then I pictured the brass lamp, the ring in the dish, my mother labeling boxes with my name as if it steadied the room. I pushed the envelope back like it was warm. "I prefer process," I said, polite. "Facts, not fireworks." Mercer nodded, embarrassed by his own errand. "I understand," he said, and left with the envelope tucked like a sleeping bird under his arm. Inside, Nova sat at the table with a legal pad titled Timeline. She had written 3 dates and a weather report. "Help me fill it in?" she asked, chin lifted like we were partners in a school project. I poured tea and placed a pen in front of her. "Start with first contact," I said. "No poetry, just addresses." She wrote, crossed out, rewrote, then sighed. "It blurs," she murmured. I was unhappy. I kept my hands flat on the wood. Unhappy is a feeling. A cabin is a fact. Unexpected twist. A package arrived addressed to Nova's maiden name, same handwriting as the running jacket. Inside, 2 tickets to a weekend conference and a handwritten note, "For when we can be ourselves." The dates overlapped our anniversary. Nova blinked, then tried to spin. These are for the lab, she said too fast. I set the tickets next to her timeline. Columns formed on their own. Oh, yours, theirs. My dad texted, "Need a hand at the shed?" Translation, "Step out, breathe." We drove to his shop and planed a stubborn piece of oak in silence until it lay true. "When wood fights, you don't shout," he said. "You change the angle." I let that sentence sit in me like a small, clean stone. Back home, Nova's cousin Sable was on the stoop with a tote and worry in her eyes. "Lark's making it about optics," she said. Then softer, "There's more. Aiden used to date my friend. He has a pattern. Mentors who become something else. She told me to tell you I'm sorry I waited." She handed me a flash drive. Screenshots. "Not to hurt you, just so you don't feel crazy." In the folder, messages where Aiden recycled the same lines. "You're the only one who gets my brain, late walks back." Copy-paste romance. Somehow being one of many hurt less than being uniquely betrayed. The spell frayed. That night Nova tried tenderness like a shortcut. Knees on the rug again, fingers curled around my wrist. "I'm humiliated," she whispered. "I'll write the real timeline. I'll email ethics right now." She typed, then paused, eyes glistening. "But please don't tell my dad." Her father, Ronan, is old-school gentle, the kind man who carries folding chairs after recitals. "He'll be so disappointed." I softened despite myself. "I won't blindside him," I promised. But no more spin. When she slept, I cleaned the kitchen. Tea rings, crumbs, the little evidence of living. In the junk drawer I found a key I didn't recognize tied to a ribbon that matched her scarf. On the tag, Apartment 4B. My stomach tightened. I checked our mail app. There it was, a forwarding slip to a downtown P.O. box I hadn't noticed. I sat with that for a long time, not touching my phone, listening to the refrigerator breathe, realizing our life had more doors than I'd ever had keys for. I didn't wake her. I added a line under facts, not fireworks. 4B key on ribbon. P.O. box forwarding. Then I turned off the light, stood in the quiet, and admitted a new truth I'd tried to avoid. Love hadn't left me, but trust had, and they do not share a bed for long. Morning made the kitchen look honest. I put the ribbon key on the counter. Nova's eyes went there first. She touched the bowl like it might bite. "Old mailbox key," she tried, voice light. I turned my laptop so she could see the P.O. box forwarding slip. Her shoulders sagged, then she straightened fast. Mask on. "Cole, it's a storage unit for props. You wouldn't understand." "I fix things," I said, keeping my tone gentle. "Keys tell on doors." I drove to 4B on my lunch break. No trespassing, just a lobby directory and a photo of the mailboxes. The name card for 4B was blank. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and confidence. On the corkboard, a yoga flyer with tabs torn off and a boutique hotel coupon. I didn't need more. Facts, not fireworks. I emailed ethics. Additional detail, found key tagged 4B, evidence of separate address. They replied they'd already placed temporary access limits on Nova and Aiden pending review. Short sentence, big echo. Nova's mom, Lark, announced a family summit and barreled in at 6 p.m. with sparkling water and opinions. Her stepdad, Vaughn, trailed behind, already exasperated. My parents came quietly with a casserole like first responders. Nova's dad, Ronan, arrived last, hat in hand, eyes worried. We set ground rules: no yelling, one person at a time, no wine. I put the binder marked facts, not fireworks, in the middle of the table. Lark cut in before I opened it. "Cole, I'm sure you feel bruised, but careers are delicate. A scandal could end Nova's work." My mom folded her hands. "So could secrets," she said, kind but firm. I walked through the timeline. Door pings, whiteboard, ring in a dish, the cabin lamp, the envelope from Dr. Mercer, the protecting the grant text, the key to 4B. No adjectives. Nova tried to outrun the nouns. "You're making it ugly," she snapped. It was a mentorship that misfired. Then, as if remembering a different audience, she dropped to her knees beside my chair, hands open. "Cole, please. I'm humiliated. I'll fix it. Just help me write the statement." The speed of those switchbacks made my stomach tilt. Ronan spoke softly. "Mija, is there anything you haven't said?" Nova stared at the table. "We shared a lease for a short-term studio," she said finally. "For writing." The room breathed in at the same time. Lark started to spin. "See? Academic space." But Ronan held up a hand. "Who signed it?" Nova whispered, "Me. And Aiden. Just to make the paperwork simple." Ronan closed his eyes like a man hearing a tire go soft on a long road. Sable texted me mid-meeting, check his conference panel. He reused the exact oxygen line with someone else last year. I didn't show it. Not to win, just to remember this wasn't romance, it was a pattern. Clean revenge stayed clean. I said I'd continue cooperating with ethics and HR, separate finances, and move to a short-term sublet while we sorted next steps. Lark bristled. That looks bad. My dad answered in the tone he uses with splintered jams. Sometimes you have to pull the casing to fix what's behind it. Then the last skeleton rattled out. Vaughn muttered, this is why I told you not to bring him around family dinners. Lark shot him a look sharp enough to cut rope. Ronan turned slow. Bring who? A beat too long. Nova blinked and shook her head hard. No one. But her cheeks had the look of a person who just realized the closet had a second door. Later Sable would confirm what her pause implied. Aiden had once dated Lark's friend, and the overlap wasn't clean. Patterns everywhere. I kept my voice level. Nova, I'm not here to ruin you. I'm here to stop ruining me. She stood, furious and brazen. You're boring, Cole. You fix things and think that's love. I needed to feel alive. The words landed like a slap and a confession. I thought of all the nights I'd tightened hinges so her office wouldn't creak, the Santa Fe scarf, the toolbox my grandfather gave me. Being steady is not the same as being dull. It's just not noisy. Ronan put a palm on the table. Enough. He looked at me, then at his daughter. He's told the truth without cruelty. The rest is ours to carry. Nova sank back into her chair, mascara smudged, anger shivering into panic. Cole, please, she whispered one last time. Don't become the story. I won't, I said. But I'm done being the prop. The morning after the summit, an anonymous email hit my inbox from a throwaway address. Subject line, I'm sorry. Inside, a grade signed only M. Said she'd been in the lab late more than once, and that the whiteboard wasn't for glare. I thought it was glamorous until it wasn't, she wrote. Please don't quote me, but you're not crazy. She attached a photo of the sign-out sheet with AR written in the margin next to Nova's initials and a doodled ring. A small, sad artifact. I forwarded it to ethics with a simple, for context. By noon, HR called. Pending review, Nova and Aiden were placed on paid leave with limited access. No lab keys, no after-hours codes. It wasn't vindication. It was a pause button. Nova texted, "You're destroying my life," followed a minute later by, "Please advise me on what to do." The whiplash had its own gravity. Clean steps kept me sane. I met with Miss Patel, a calm attorney who spoke in complete, human sentences. We opened a solo account, froze the joint credit line, and drafted a separation agreement that read like a polite boundary fence. Temporary schedules, bills split, no contact with Aiden, and a clause about not discussing the case with students. We keep it factual and kind, Miss Patel said. Judges notice both. At home, I moved to a short-term sublet above a hardware store. The place smelled like cedar and coffee. Dad helped carry boxes without commentary. Mom labeled a bin Cole, comfort, and slipped in my granddad's tool roll and the Santa Fe postcard Nova and I once loved. It felt heavy in a way paper shouldn't. Nova showed up that evening with a legal pad and an apology that tried on 3 costumes in 1 minute. Brave, contrite, furious. She sat, then knelt, hands open. "Cole, I'm drowning," she whispered. "I'll sell the 4B lease. I'll email ethics a real statement. I'll delete everything." Then the mask flipped. "But you have to unring the bell. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." I kept my voice steady. I can't edit the past to fit a nicer caption. Twist I didn't expect. A bank alert flagged a recurring payment to the P.O. box, storage rental. I went during lunch. Inside were projectors, a softbox, and a small velvet pouch with our anniversary date engraved, empty. The clerk said, "They picked something up yesterday." I stood in the lobby with the velvet in my palm and felt both foolish and oddly relieved. Some mysteries don't need an object, just a decision. That night, Nova's dad, Ronan, called. "I read the policy," he said gently. "I'm sorry." He didn't choose sides, he chose truth. A minute after we hung up, Lark left a voicemail that could have been a press release. "We can frame this as a thought leadership misstep," she said. "Lean into the narrative." I deleted it without malice. Spin is a kind of weather. I was learning to move indoors. HR scheduled my statement for Friday. I brought my neat binder and my quiet voice. "I'm not here to punish," I said. "I'm here to stop pretending." When I left, I sat in my truck and let my hands shake. Then I drove to the lake, walked a slow mile and signed up for a weekend woodworking class on my phone, something small that made sense in my hands. Back at the sublet, I opened Miss Patel's draft and signed my part. Boundaries written in ink. Nova texted a photo of her knees on our rug with, "Please, one more chance." I typed and retyped 3 times then sent, "I wish the best for you. I choose peace." It read simple. It felt like lifting a door off rusty hinges, awkward, heavy, and absolutely necessary. Friday morning, while I was rechecking Miss Patel's draft, my phone lit up with an unknown number from out of state. "Hi, this is Dr. Leong from Harbor Ridge University. Calling to confirm Nova's references and the details of her family studio, listed on her application. Partners Nova Hale and Aiden Rains." I had to put the call on speaker and set the phone on the counter because my hands forgot themselves. "Family studio?" I repeated carefully. Dr. Leong sounded sympathetic without meaning to. She wrote that her domestic partner co-directs her outreach. "We'd like to understand how that's structured." Domestic partner. The phrase landed like a stamp on a document I never saw. I stayed polite, "The way you talk while unscrewing a stripped hinge. I can confirm I'm not the partner she named. I won't comment further. Our HR can provide context." After we hung up, I sat very still and let the insult say its full name. I'd spent 5 years tightening her world. She'd listed someone else's family. HR's meeting was brisk. Ethics had finished their preliminary review. Visitor code patterns, whiteboard obstruction, appearance of a boundary breach. Aiden resigned his postdoc early, to pursue opportunities. Nova was offered a 1-year remediation plan. Mentorship training, external supervision, no student evaluations. Dr. Mercer apologized for the envelope without saying the word, envelope. "We were afraid of spectacle," he admitted. "You chose process." "Thank you." It didn't feel like winning. It felt like room temperature. Then the twist I didn't see coming. The facilities VP asked me to step into capital projects for the summer, lead on restoring the physics annex, new labs, new doors, new rules. "You've earned a bigger set of keys," she said. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. I accepted. Clean revenge sometimes looks like a better job. At my sublet, a postcard waited, a desert sky from our Santa Fe trip, Nova's handwriting on the back. "We were magic once. I'm sorry." I put it in the binder under a tab that wasn't labeled anything. My parents swung by with takeout. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Mom refilled my water like it might be faith. I told them about Harbor Ridge. Mom's face folded. "She tried to write a story that erased you," she said softly. "Stories like that don't hold." Lark arrived humming damage control. "Good news," she announced. "Harbor Ridge is still interested if we craft the narrative." Behind her, Ronan stared at the floor, hands in his pockets. "Mija," he said, "no more narratives." Lark's mask slipped for a second. Something tired peeked through. "I don't know how to help if I can't spin," she admitted. For the first time I believed her. Nova came by at dusk with a typed timeline, ink still damp. She put it on the counter then sank to her knees like a reflex. "I'm sorry," she whispered, palms up. "I listed him because I panicked and thought it would look serious." She laughed once, a broken little sound. It did. I didn't move closer. "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You insulted me. You turned my steadiness into scenery." She nodded, the fight finally leaking out. "I wanted to be extraordinary," she said, "and it wasn't an excuse. It was a confession. I confused noise with meaning." That night, alone, I let myself grieve the version of us that made sense on paper. The scarf, the Santa Fe sun, the same parking hang tag. I thought about every time she called me boring and how I'd carried that word like a brick. Quietly I set it down. Good isn't boring. Good holds a house up when the weather gets ideas. Saturday I started the woodworking class. The smell of planed maple and coffee rinsed the static out of my head. I signed up to volunteer at the community theater build 2. Risers, a clean edge on the proscenium, a fresh coat of paint that made a dull room breathe. In the afternoon I walked the lake path with Harper, the neighbor's dog who had adopted me, in my pockets of treats. My phone buzzed with an email from the VP confirming my promotion and a note from Ethics. "Thank you for your patience. Please take care of yourself." I looked at the water and felt something simple. I had not become the story, and yet I was moving forward inside one. That evening, Sable texted a photo of a closed P.O. box. Empty slot, tiny echo. "Lease terminated," she wrote. "You're free of that ribbon." I went home to the cedar-smelling sublet and booked a long weekend trail trip 2 months out. Just me, switchbacks, and no door logs. As I hit purchase, a thought settled like a level finding center. I can't fix what chose to break itself, but I can build again. Part 10 would be about that. 2 weeks later I stood in the gutted physics annex with a hard hat and a clipboard that actually felt like a promotion, not a prop. The whiteboard that once hit a window leaned against a dumpster, chalk-dusted and ordinary. I signed off on transparent glass for the interior office and a card reader rule that logs alert if anything blocks a pane after hours. A junior architect asked if I wanted frost film for privacy. I smiled politely. We're choosing light. The separation paperwork moved like a cautious river. Ms. Patel walked me through signatures as if she were reading blueprints. Nova signed too, eyes rimmed, voice quiet. No drama. Just ink. Ethics finalized their report. Remediation for Nova, contract ended for Aiden. Dr. Mercer shook my hand, apologized again without theater, and asked if I'd lead a facilities workshop on designing for healthy boundaries. I said yes. Clean revenge can look like better policy. At home, my cedar sublet over the hardware store, I built a dining table from campus oak salvage during renovations. Every pass with the planer felt like smoothing a sentence I'd waited too long to say. On Saturdays I volunteered at the community theater. We raised a proscenium that didn't wobble when you breathed on it. On Sundays I swam the lake with Harper trotting the shore and Mom waving a thermos from the dock. Dad stopped by to admire the table's joinery, grunted once, his version of applause, and left a new set of chisels on my counter like a benediction. There were final twists, small and human. Lark called and for the first time didn't pitch a narrative. I don't know how to help without spinning, she said, softer than I've ever heard her. Try listening, I said, and we managed 5 minutes of it. Ronan sent a photo of a birdhouse he and Nova built in his garage, crooked, bright, hopeful. One day at a time, his text read. Sable got a job in another city and hugged me goodbye with, "You kept it clean. Thank you." The TLM emailed ethics a formal statement and copied me, closing with, "I'm sorry for my part in staying silent." I replied, "Take care," and meant it. Nova asked to meet once more. We sat on a public bench where the campus trees make a green tunnel out of spring. She didn't kneel. She didn't perform. I confused noise with meaning, she said again. I'm learning the difference. I wished her steadiness. She nodded, then told me she'd declined Harbor Ridge. Not fair to anyone right now. It was the truest sentence between us in months. I took my trail trip, red rock, switchbacks, heat that makes water taste like a miracle. At a ridge overlook I realized I'd spent a year negotiating with pain like it was a department chair. The canyon offered no debate. It just asked me to keep walking. I did. When I got back, the annex smelled like new paint and possibility. We hung the last door and it closed with that satisfying quiet click you get only when jam, hinge and strike are aligned. I stood there a minute longer than the job required. It wasn't triumph. It was alignment. If you've read this far on our /relationship_advice because your phone just lit up with a truth you didn't ask for, here's what I'd tell you from a workbench that finally feels like home. Document, then breathe. Facts don't shout and they don't forget. Keep your revenge clean, policies, passwords, paper. It stings in the right places. Don't let anyone sell you open as retroactive permission for secrecy. Good isn't boring. Good is a beam that holds when the weather gets loud. Grief is a job at first. Feed yourself, move your body, make something with your hands. Last scene, I set the oak table in my sublet with 2 bowls I turned in class. Wobbly, honest. Harper thumped her tail against the cabinet. A sunbeam climbed the wall like a promise. My phone buzzed with a calendar alert, annex ribbon cutting. I smiled, locked the door behind me and felt it, finally, close all the way. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs up.